Fandom is such a ridiculous thing. It's beautiful, but also it can be kind of crazy. The Cleveland Cavaliers won 16 straight games recently. From February 5th to March 14th, they lost 0 games. And if you look at a lot of those games, if you watch a lot of those games, you will recognize that not only were they winning games, they were blowing the doors off of teams. Teams could not compete, Cavalanche after Cavalanche. But since that 16-game win streak, they've now lost 4 in a row. And Cavs fandom is acting like the sky is falling. And that's why I bring up the 16-game win streak in the video when I'm talking about this 4-game losing streak. It is so easy to get bogged down by the lows of the lows and not really appreciate and remember the highs of the highs. Like a 16-game win streak was just going on a week ago. And now because they lost 4 in a row, people think it's over. And I'm not a Nostradamus. I can't predict the future. Hell, if I could, I would make $1 million a day, sports betting. So I don't know if this 4-game losing streak is more of an indication of who they are versus a 16-game win streak, but I want to talk about it nonetheless. Y'all know me. I'm Team Enjoy Basketball. I'm an extreme optimist. I have loved what I've seen from the Cleveland Cavaliers so far this season. I truly do believe them as a contending team, and this 4-game losing streak is not really deterring me from that. But I want to remind you, as somebody that is a real watcher and studier of this game, I remember teams who eventually went on to win a championship going on similar losing streaks around the same time of the season. The Denver Nuggets back in 2023, the days are nearly identical from March 8th to March 14th. They lost 4 straight games to some stinky teams. This Denver Nuggets team went on to eventually win the championship. They lost in consecutive games to the Bulls, the Spurs, the Nets, and the Raptors. That ain't good. The year before that, the eventual Golden State Warriors, the championship of that year, went on their own personal 5-game losing streak around this time. We're talking about end of February, early March. And if you needed another example, the year before that, when the Milwaukee Bucks won it, they also went on their personal 5-game losing streak. Now, again, I can't predict whether or not this 4-game losing streak is showing that the Cavs are pretenders, but I do want to tell Cavs fans, relax. It is not the end of the world. Championship level teams sometimes do this. But let's talk about what has been going on. And when I look at these 4 games, I want to say 2 of them, I'm not giving excuses for whatsoever, but at least in 2 of these, some of the shot making that happened was ridiculous. I want y'all to rewatch that Cavs versus Clippers game from a few nights ago. It was one that I did not get to see live. People on Twitter, Kenny, are you tapped in? I'm like, no, I'm not. But I watched it in the morning and they would say, Kenny, you're in for a masterclass. Some of the shots that were being hit by Kawhi Leonard, some of the shots that were being hit by the Clippers, the Cavaliers were playing almost perfect defense and it didn't matter. Tonight, when I watched this game against the Suns, the Cavs tried to go on their own personal run in the 4th quarter to turn this game that was a 15 to 20 point deficit to almost a 5-point game. But then Kevin Durant hits a heavily contested. Devin Booker hits a leaning contested 3. And that's not excusing these losses, because the reason you get into a 20-point deficit to a bad Suns team that's missing 2 starters and their 6th man is because I do believe that they've lost some of that aggression on the defensive side of the ball. A lot of people look at January as the dog days of the NBA. Like before All-Star break, they tell you not to look into numbers or not to look into what teams are doing because they're all just patiently waiting to get that week break. I truly do believe that when it comes to this level of talented team like the Cleveland Cavaliers, a team that's head and shoulders above everybody in the Eastern Conference as far as regular season record goes, I think that the dog days actually start around now. Where you say, hey, we have a 5-game lead on the number 2 seed Celtics with 15 games left. That is almost secure that we're going to have the 1 seed. So we kind of are taking our foot off the gas just a little bit. And I can feel that when I've watched them over these last couple nights. And if you're going to take your foot off the gas, you have to, complement it or supplement it with the offense being elite. And that hasn't been what the Cavs have been doing in this 4-game losing streak. Full stop. Donovan Mitchell has not been good recently. And I'm only comparing him to himself. He has not hit the shots, have been a big-time game changer in this 4-game losing streak. In their loss versus the Kings, he put together a pretty solid 3rd and 4th quarter. But other than that, he just hasn't really been the normal version of himself. So if Donovan Mitchell, as our number 1 offensive guy, is not having it going, and obviously, you want people to shoot through their slumps, specifically a guy like Donovan Mitchell who could hit 1 shot and immediately be back on fire. But sometimes I do wonder, late in these games, if it is close and I'm not the guy that's got it going, can I relax and let Evan Mobley do his job? Because Evan Mobley in the game against the Kings was the best player on the court by a wide margin. And now I think it's becoming more frequent where Evan Mobley is the best player on the court for the Cavs specifically. But in that game versus the Kings, he was the best player on the court. And one thing I remember, let me see if I can find this play-by-play. Normal fourth quarter a stint for Evan Mobley. He gets subbed out early. He sits on the bench for like 2 to 3 minutes. And with 4 minutes and some change left in the game, he checks back in. And right now, the Sacramento Kings have a 2-point lead. And quick reminder, at this point in the game, Evan Mobley has 29 points and he's only missed 4 shots on his way to 29 points. That's 29. He's only missed 4 shots. The first possession when he gets back into the game, he grabs a rebound, and Evan Mobley has been doing this quite a bit so far this season. Takes it coast to coast. He misses it, gets his own putback. Boom. That is the last bucket Evan Mobley scores in this game. Tie game, about 4 minutes to go. And basically for the rest of this game, Evan Mobley is used as a spacer. He is sitting on the wing or in the corner on some possessions and letting other people cook. This case, DeAndre Hunter. You and DeMar DeRozan on an island. DeMar plays good defense. It's a miss. Then we get a 7-minute review on a foul. NBA type stuff. You know how that is. Oh, yeah, I remember there was another review after the review. And that's pretty much it. He's never using the action for the rest of the game. He gets an offensive rebound later on just by sending the dunker spot. But a guy that had been the best player on the court for the entirety of the game gets 0 touches with 4 minutes to go. And the Cavs have done such an amazing job by producing Cavaliers. If you don't know what that is, it's when the Cavs go on their own personal run. Sometimes it's like a 14-0 run. That I do believe that them knowing that they can potentially turn it on has been a detriment to the team at times. There's no world where they should be losing to the Suns. If you talk about the bigger picture of it all, given the fact that the Suns have not been good this season, they're also missing some of their most critical players. And it felt like they started off this game with the idea that we're kind of chilling. We're just more talented. We're a deeper team than this Suns team. So it's cool. Eventually, we'll be able to go on our run. And they were able to go on their run. It just so happened they were in so much of a deficit that the run didn't matter. And then it's got Kenny messing with the rotations. Kenny's out here doing stuff in this game that he ain't done. Javonte Green hadn't seen the floor. I think they said on the broadcast 4 out of the last 5 games, he got a DNP. Well, he checked in early in the third quarter because they just needed somebody different that maybe would be able to put some pressure on the Suns. But I do think the number one thing about the Cavs that has scared me all season long, but I think we're seeing it right now in this 4-game losing streak, is the 3-point shooting variance. When the Cavaliers started the season off on their, I don't remember, was it 12-0? I forget how they started off the season. Let me double check that because I'm trying to get these facts right. Yeah, I forgot. 15-0 to start the season. The thing that scared me the most about their run, we were talking about early on in the season, could the Cavs be contenders? Are they pretenders? Yada, 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 was the 3-point shooting variance. They have been shooting historically great all season long. And my question was, will they ever come down to earth when it comes to shooting? Now we're 60 plus games in and you had to come to the realization, hey, if a team shoots this well for 60 games, it's probably just as how good they shoot. That's who they are now. And they get these last couple games where the shooting has been bad. Then it scares you, right? You say, they're not going to shoot 32% every single game for the rest of the season. But this 4-game losing streak where they are shooting poorly, I want to remind you, how many games you need to lose in a 7-game series? Just 4. So if they have this level or this lack of shooting out of nowhere in a postseason, they could just be eliminated just like that. And they could be the real catalyst to it all. Because we've seen the Cavs continuously increase their 3-point frequency over the season. Now, it's kind of plateaued a bit because it can only get so high. But as the season went on, they were getting 2% more when it comes to 3-point frequency, 4% more, 6% more. Then eventually, again, it plateaued. So if we're going to be a team that's going to shoot a lot of threes, obviously we need those threes to go in. And if it's not going in, then what is our backup plan? Because not only are they shooting it poorly during this streak, the team that they're going against is scorching hot from 3. Like, the Orlando Magic, the first loss on this losing streak, we know the Magic. They're the worst 3-point shooting team since they started tracking 3-pointers. I mean, I'm exaggerating, but that's how bad of a 3-point shooting team they are. They shot 42% from 3 in that one game versus the Cavs that started the losing streak. Next game, when they went against the Clippers shot a ridiculous 46% from 3 on 35 attempts. And then tonight, the Suns shot 45% on nearly on 42 threes. And they were giving threes up to people you want to give threes up to. There are many times in this game where Royce O'Neal had a wide open three, but that's the shot that the Cavs have decided that they want to give up. Ryan Dunn has been a negative shooter since the day he picked up a basketball. In this game, he shot 2 for 5 from three. So, like, again, their three-point shooting has dropped in this streak, and the opposing three-point shooting has been ridiculously good. And I don't know where that leaves us, right? I still do believe in the Cavs as a team that can win a championship. I've never really put them as my number one team, but they are in the real conversation. They're in that group of elite level talent. And the question is always going to be, can they continue to shoot as good as they shot all season long? Can they lock back in defensively when it matters the most? And can our boy Donovan Mitchell get back to the way he has been hooping earlier in the season? If you feel good about 2 of those 3 things, hell, 3 of those 3 things, you would probably have them as a contender as well. I'm always on the side of optimism. Like, I just know sometimes it is a make or miss league. So a 4-game losing streak, as I gave you the examples earlier in the video, is not a death sentence, y'all. We need a little bit more time.